Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Russell Jackman. Mike McDowd is off today. I believe he's on assignment. And at each commercial break, we are going to ask a trivia question. Now, last time, I think, Russell, you were on assignment, so you missed the periodic table of elements question.
I'm so glad. I've probably done pretty good with that. Do you remember Tom Lehrer's Element song? He sings the entire Elements song, the entire periodic table of the elements to the
cool.
modern major general.
Oh, okay. I like that.
I have to during the break.
You have to play that for me. In fact, I even have this one. You better get just because you're into the computer more than most people, so you'll know this one. In fact, you might actually know all three of these. They're all different kinds of questions. So we're recording this show on the Monday right after we had two fairly exciting football games to see who gets into the Super Bowl.
I think the NFL was very lucky to have the Rams Seattle game as the second game, because if the New England Denver 10-7 game was the second game, people would have fallen asleep on it everywhere.
Well, especially with the snow, it was going to get even worse.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
So
So this is basically a rematch of, was it the 2014?
Right, which was the total blowout. Where as soon as it started, it was a complete disaster.
Well, that's the one where Russell Wilson threw the interception to Butler in the end zone. Remember? That's why New England.
I don't, because I just remember the start of that game when Manning. No. You're thinking
of the Broncos.
Denver. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. The Denver.
Okay. All right. Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, along with Russell Jackman. Again, Mike McDowd will probably be back next week. That'll be the week in between the Super Bowl.
I know, dead week. A reminder of what except it's not so dead because we've got the Olympics coming up. So the Winter Olympics coming up. So we'll have that to at least, whet our appetites, and we'll be talking about and I do want to know, what is your favorite Winter Olympic sport?
Boy, I think I've liked the big ski jump, the
giant ski jump.
Ski jump, yeah. Especially after the guy who the agony of defeat.
Yes, and Eddie the Eagle from remember Eddie the Eagle from England? He was a guy that had never ski jumped before. He was just doing it to represent England in it, because England has never had any great skiers.
Was that the guy who did the boom, 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 bam?
No, yeah, he spun around and then crashed.
Oh, I didn't know.
That wasn't the guy from the Wide World of Sports, though. That's a different guy.
No, that's what I'm talking about. It's a Wide World of Sports one,
Yeah, no, that's some other guy. That's some guy from Italy, I think, or something like that. But
gotcha.
Eddie the Eagle, he was just terrible, but he was a folk hero for England, because he was the only English ski jumper that's.
You remember? Did you see that movie, Cool Runnings?
Yeah. Yes, that's bobsled. That was the bobsled. The Jamaican bobsled.
Yeah, that was I guess kind of maybe loosely built on a true story, but very, very cool. I liked it.
Yeah.
In fact, the other thing, I saw a movie on an airplane. I was going to New York a couple of weeks ago, and it was called The Senior, and it was based on the true story of a guy at age 59.
Yeah, I've heard about that, but it seemed corny, though. I mean, that had Michael Chiklis in it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I don't know anything about him, but he did a decent job. And I mean, it's based on the true story that he, at 59 years old, made the college Division II team. And then it's kind of neat the way they ended it. It was, and it's a clean movie, so for the family. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. Um, so okay, I'm wondering from a fan standpoint, and then all the people who like betting and watching and all that kind of stuff. These two markets, in New England, I got to think is a big market for football, but Seattle, yeah, not so much, especially without Russell Wilson. Now, Sam
Well,
Darnold,
you say that, but they're only a two-sport town, so that's one thing.
yeah,
So fans can focus on, and Seattle also carries like most of the Northwest. So people in Idaho are Seattle Seahawks fans. Oregon is a lot
Montana,
of Seahawks fans, and there's even some folks in that shallow part of Canada who are Seahawks
yeah,
fans. And so they draw from a pretty good. I mean, Seattle is a pretty major media market, and
fair enough.
the NFL didn't complain when Russell Wilson was winning title, won a title there and so forth. But the guy who must be punching a hole in the door must be Pete Carroll. Pete
Yeah,
Carroll
good.
must be really, him and Geno Smith must be
Yeah,
drinking at a bar somewhere together, saying, that was our team. A
yeah.
year ago, that was their team. And they didn't do squat with it.
But
And now the team
Sam Darnold,
like them.
finally. I mean, so Sam
And I'm
Darnold.
sure
Well, go ahead.
Tyler Lockett, and DJ Metcalf are also
That's right.
kicking themselves in the butt, thinking, were we really the reasons why we couldn't win a Super Bowl, why we couldn't get to a Super Bowl?
Well, and Metcalf. I mean, he's got a lot of talent, but it seems like
But
his,
is he
his
in a
head.
Super Bowl? No.
No, no, no. But I mean, a lot of guys are talented, but it's not a one man show. But he seems like he's got, like he had that issue with the fan in Pittsburgh, and he got suspended. His head doesn't seem to be quite in the game, like people who don't have issues. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, nobody says anything like that about Nakua, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
You
mean, who
know,
doesn't want Cooper Nakua? Yeah, that's a very good example. And then
I
Cooper
guess
Cup.
New England fans don't, and Rams
Yeah.
fans don't like Nakua, but
Well, no,
other than that.
Rams fans love Nakua.
I mean, not
Who-
Nakua. I mean Najigba. I was thinking Najigba. Sorry, I
Oh,
got
oh,
Nakua
oh, yeah.
mixed up with Najigba, and also Cooper Cup. They're probably not big fans of Cooper Cup, who was
Yeah.
a Ram for all those years.
Yeah.
Switches over to Seattle,
But
and
but no, in his case though, it wasn't him asking for the trade though, was it? I
I
don't
think he went
remember.
as a free agent.
Oh,
I don't think he
okay.
was traded. I think his
Okay.
deal came up. He wanted to stay in LA. They wouldn't offer him the money. They said he was old, and he went as a free agent over to Seattle.
Well,
And
look,
Seattle
Sam
paid the
Darnold.
money, and it paid off.
Yeah. So Sam Darnold, I remember him with the Jets. He had a little stint with the 49ers, and then Minnesota was kind of his big thing. But
I've only been to one 49er game at Levi Stadium, and that was the one game that Sam Darnold started for the 49ers.
and
And it was against the Rams, and we lost.
yeah,
So I am a little bitter that Sam Darnold, in the one game that I get to go to Levi Stadium, and the one time that I get to see a 49ers game and get to see him play, he lost for us. Well, to be honest with you, Jake Moody lost that game and missing a field goal and an extra point in that one. That was the final game of the season.
so
When
Seattle looked, I mean, well, I was gonna say they looked good against the 49ers, but I'd say the 49ers looked terrible against.
it's you of all people watch plenty of Looney Tunes, right?
I used to.
Wile
Not really.
E. Coyote could run off the cliff, right? And he
Yeah.
would do fine until he looked down.
Yeah, that's right.
And the 49ers finally looked down with
Yeah.
Seattle and realized that they had run off the cliff. There was nothing underneath them, and they just took that giant fall right
Yeah.
off the cliff and down into the ravine. And you see the little down at the
Yeah.
bottom of the ravine from when he hits the ground. It just there was I mean, but the fact is, if all that had happened in that game was the opening kickoff was returned for a touchdown, that would have been enough to beat the 49ers.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, they would have lost
exactly.
7-6, and that would have been maybe even as heartbreaking as the loss that they suffered.
Probably, probably, yeah. And then with the Rams, the guy muffs a punt. I can only, the whole game's not based on that one play, but I'm sure that kind of goes through that poor kid's
Oh
mind.
yeah, yeah. No, it's a big moment, and you'll be remembered by Rams fans for all of that.
Yeah,
Although, LA has had so many titles now with
with
the
basketball.
Dodgers.
Yeah.
I don't feel sorry at all for the city of Los Angeles. They've had their celebrations,
Yeah.
so
Well,
let's.
look what would have happened if the Rams got in. The Wolin, I think his name was. He taunted on a fourth down from and then the next play he gets. I don't want to say he got burned, but the touchdown comes against him. I mean, can you imagine? That's why on the sidelines, his teammate kind of chewed him out a little bit. I
Well,
guess all forgiven because they made it to the Super Bowl. But
yeah, but he does that in the
yeah,
Super Bowl. That's going to be super costly. Yeah, you
yeah,
can't make a mistake like that. It's bad
yeah.
enough to do it in an NFC Championship game, but
Yeah,
you know, um, and then
I don't
the
know. Jake may do well. Okay, wait. Hey, let's go to our first commercial break here. All right, you better get this one. Now, I wouldn't get it because I'm not as much of a computer guy as you are. What does URL stand for?
ah,
I figured I give you a softball question. Again, me not being the big computer guy, I think it stands for rural.
Earl,
Rural.
yes,
All
Earl,
right.
yes, like
Get with me. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We are going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. One more time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. Next week, we're expecting Mike McDowd to come back, and he'll probably have a good guest with us. That's what we're expecting. All right, first softball question is not about softball.
it's not about softball.
Proper question, though, for Mr. Russell Jackman, who is quite the aficionado when it comes to computers. What
Well,
does
I have a computer consulting business, so
that's
yeah,
you're an aficionado.
computer consulting services.
What does URL stand for?
It's now I'm not sure if it's universal or uniform resource locator. I think it's universal.
No, it's uniform.
It's uniform. I said one of the two. I had
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, how many U's are there that
yeah,
are
and when you're talking web, I was thinking no, maybe it's universal because it's web, but uniform resource locator, which
I know
again,
WWW World Wide Web, so there we go. We're even.
right, right.
All right, so Derek May, isn't he? He's kind of a local guy for us here, isn't he?
Let's see. I'm trying to remember what, but I do know that as I said, if they'd shown that second half, if they reversed the time frame on
Yeah,
those games, it would have been just awful to try to sit through a 10-7 football game in
yeah,
deep snow. And yeah, you're right. Could have been even worse.
yeah. I mean, it was amazing how like from the third quarter on, things just completely changed. That weather pattern was just ridiculous. Um,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
it's a good thing that they're not having the Super Bowl. Do you remember when the Giants beat New England in the one outdoor game they had? They made it in the
Yeah,
cold.
David Tyree.
Derek Tyree against the helmet. Now, that was that Super Bowl, I believe, 2008, maybe. Can you imagine if they tried that this year? Another outside. I mean, there it is going to be, quote outside because it's Levi Stadium,
Yeah,
but
it is, but it's not. Yeah, isn't going to be any snow, but there could be rain as part of it. We're going to get rain like in a couple of days, and who knows, what the time's going to be. The time frame is going to be. The weather's going to be like a couple. But I mean, you always take that. Look, they've held the Super Bowl in New York. When it could have snowed. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot to be said about like picking one city and just making one city a designated location for it, But
New
so you
Orleans
could
because
build,
super.
a real.
Except that if the Saints get in, then it's kind of a little bit of a little unfair. Um, but
Although we almost had the Niners in as
a little,
home field advantage of it.
and you sort of had
It's
that. They were,
It's such a big dog and pony show for the NFL to like have the Super Bowl come to town, but it also does take a lot of infrastructure to handle the massive crowds that come in.
Oh yeah.
And to have everybody be able to the hotel and the police department has to work overtime to make sure crowd control. It's a little bit different because like here, and people who aren't from San Francisco don't realize that Levi Stadium is a good hour's drive away from San Francisco, and really in almost a completely different city than what you have in San Francisco. It's not in downtown, but they're going to have a lot of like events going on in downtown San Francisco.
Yeah.
That relate to the Super Bowl.
Well, when I went to Lee Steinberg's party when they had the Super Bowl 50, I guess it was in downtown San Francisco.
Right. So I plan on going to see some of that stuff and check that out, because I think after this, it's probably going to be a very long time before another Super Bowl happens in the Bay. It's just, when you think about it, 30 cities, right? I mean, it's going to, they aren't probably not going to have it in Jacksonville anytime soon. Sorry, Mike. They're probably, unless the place gets a new stadium kind of thing. Like, they usually. Yeah, I mean, but what I'm saying is that before they make it back to San Francisco again, they've got to go to so many other cities where they haven't had one.
Well, it was 10 years, right?
It was 10 years, but it kind of like as a way to sort of pay back, Levi Stadium and all that stuff. But I would think that it will actually get, there's so many other cities that are going to want it. Vegas is going to want it again, and it's a big problem.
That would be
it's a lot of money.
How much do you think it'll cost to park close by? How much do you think it'll cost to park close by?
Oh, I'm sure that it's going to be like $200 or $300 because normally like $100 to park for a game. So I could see it being 3 or 4 times the amount. And I saw a thing saying that tickets. Now, I wanted you to guess. I'm sorry about my dog in the background there. If you, what is the most expensive ticket to the NFL per average? In what team, and how much do you think it is?
You mean for a regular game?
Yeah, for a regular game.
And where we're sitting where?
You hold out total all the seats and then all the prices, and you came up with the average ticket price.
$300.
No. In fact, ironically, that's the 49ers per ticket cost. And that's among the middle of the league. So no. You what is your guess for most expensive now?
Most expensive, $650.
That's getting there. It's the Eagles that are like about $520 per seat.
How many people in Philadelphia can afford that?
That's something that a lot of people are going to be asking, but they're obviously, they had no shortage of seats, and because they just won the Super Bowl, lots of people re-upped their season's tickets because they want more of the same. And, with the loss of the 49ers, people are extremely bitter about that. I didn't get to talk about that game on here because I was away for the that week when you guys had the show.
If you think about it, Philadelphia, except for when Ron Jaworski in 1980 for that year against the Raiders that they lost, they hadn't been good since Norm Van Brocklin was with them.
Well, no, they had the year where they won with Nick Foles.
No, I'm talking about maybe no, you're right. I'm talking about like before this set.
Oh yeah, before that, yes, they were always, because Dallas and the Giants were the kings of the NFC East, or for a while, so was Washington. And Philadelphia was always kind of in the rearview mirror. Someone has to be the lesser of that conference. Now it's the Giants' turn, to be the dregs of, and Washington isn't so great. And I don't know, with the way that Jerry Jones keeps interfering with Dallas, I'm not sure they're going to be good for any time soon. So it's kind of like,
Nick Prescott is a fine quarterback.
They do, but their defense is garbage. and we're
They,
realizing that deep. Look at 3 of the 4 teams that are in the NFL that made it to the conference final game. New England, Denver, and Seattle
yeah,
all have crazy defenses. And Los Angeles, their defense isn't terrible, but it's not the function of their game. They're more offensive based. But of course, the 2 best defensive teams are the ones that are going to the
yeah.
Super Bowl.
Are you
And
going to make a prediction, and then we'll ask you next week for another prediction?
I think Seattle's going to win.
Do you want them to win? That's a separate question, but I'm just kind of curious.
Not really.
See, here's the
But
interesting thing. So because a lot of people for a while, like they started hating Kansas City because they kept winning, and they were hating New England because they just kept winning all the time. But now it's a different team. Brady's not on it. They were terrible for a couple of years, and now you got this new kid, Drake May, and then Vrabel used to play, and then he seems like a good coach, and so it's kind of a
but
whole
they're
new.
hardly long-suffering fans. I mean, they've had lots of Super Bowls, and this will give them more Super Bowls than any other franchise in history. And
That's
so
true.
that, as a Niner fan, I still long for the days when the Niners were the team that had 5 Super Bowls and nobody else did.
No
That's
losses.
Yeah, no losses, and that's
What about
changed.
3 losses? 2 against the
Yeah,
Chiefs, 1 against Baltimore.
yeah. And
About that
that's why I didn't want the Rams to win, because that was going to get too close to the Niners' 5 Super Bowls. They'd have 3, and I never thought the Rams would ever get to even 1 Super Bowl, let alone knock on the door for 3.
True. That's right, because Kurt Warner won it for them, but they were St. Louis Cardinals, or St. Louis Rams back then.
No, they were back to they. Yeah, okay, yeah. No, they were still St. Louis then, but yeah, as the Los Angeles Rams, yeah, it's been. I didn't like them anymore when they were in St. Louis than I did when they were in Los Angeles. So,
or when they were in the Cleveland Rams back in the 50s.
That goes back really far. That's more my uncle's territory when he had season tickets than when I was following. So yeah, my uncle had season tickets to the 49ers for most of the 70s and all of the 80s and into the 90s. And I went to many Joe Montana and Steve Young games.
The Cleveland Rams, though, that you're talking about the 1940s and 50s, aren't you?
Yeah, and my uncle had tickets when they were in the 50s in Kezar.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, but I wasn't around for that.
My son-in-law is a big Bengals fan, and they live in Cincinnati. And my daughter went to one game this year, and her first game ever, and it was like 1 degrees, and they got smoked. They got shut out. It was the one terrible game. Okay, let me go to the second.
Where you go? I want to give.
We got to hurry up. We got a break coming up here. M&M's Fruit Chews would eventually become what popular candy? Stay with us. Sports Econ 101 will be right back. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here along with Russell Jackman. Second trivia question. M&M's Fruit Chews would eventually become what popular candy?
Well, again, this doesn't have anything to do with computers, so I was expecting.
Or the law.
So, I'm going to say Skittles.
You're close. Starburst.
Starburst. Okay.
Starburst. Fruit Chews. Yes. Okay. That's pretty cool.
Well,
okay.
When you said M&Ms, I was thinking, what's like M&Ms, Skittles or like that. But it's interesting to know that. And I did not know that. And they're so different than M&Ms. Do you know what I mean? Skittles are like M&Ms, but Starburst is gummy and waxy and. Yeah. That's interesting that they're a byproduct of the M&M. I did not know that. But the thing I did want to mention, because we were talking about football, is the passing of John Brody.
Yeah, it's funny because I always thought he was terrible. I mean, I'm sorry, but when I grew up, he was the quarterback for the 49ers, and they only had like one good year, like 1971, and then they blew it with the onside kick to Dallas, and then Dallas ended up winning the Super Bowl. But except for Gene Washington and maybe a couple other guys,
Freddie Solomon.
He saw. Well, no, that was later. Freddie
Years
Sullivan.
later, but he was one of the guys that would still play. Well, I was telling my daughter the entire O.J. Simpson story on her
Oh,
way to
really?
Matt. Yes, I was explaining to her who O.J. Simpson was because she's like, wasn't he a guy that murdered some people and then like got away with it? And it's like, there's so much more to that story, you
Yeah.
know.
But
That's
yeah, I
what the
mean,
next generation thinks of O.J. Simpson. He's,
wow. You know what I mean? If you go back, because I mean, think about it. He was with the Bills, and they were a terrible
yes,
team, but he was awesome, just like Barry Sanders with
yeah,
Detroit. And then he started doing all these movies and the Hertz commercial. I mean, he
yep.
was on top of his game,
Yeah, no, I was
and
saying everybody knew who he was. I said he was like LeBron James or Steph
yeah,
Curry. Everybody
exactly.
knew who O.J. Simpson was. Everyone, there's that Hertz auto commercial where he would run through the airport and jump over the luggage, you
Yeah.
know.
Yep, that was it.
And
Vern, remember Vern Glenn, or in fact, I had
yeah,
lunch with Vern earlier, and it was so funny because he's kind of in between your age and my age, and he was talking to this one young lady, and he was mentioning about the Baltimore Colts, and she says, "No, no, no, you mean the Indianapolis Colts?" And he says, "Well, they used to be the Baltimore Colts," and she didn't believe him.
it's true. Yeah, we'd hate to tell her about the Pittsburgh Ironmen. Anyway, but John Brody was, a Bay Area native. He played his entire career, I think, for the 49ers, didn't
Yeah.
he? And you know, God bless him. He played hard when the team
Yep.
around him was just terrible. I mean, it
Yeah.
wasn't his fault that the
He
defense
did
of the
win the
49ers.
MVP. I think he did one year. He did win the MVP.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, but the rest of the 49ers were just garbage. I mean, the ownership didn't take the Niners seriously, and they didn't have a winning tradition. And people don't remember that being a Niners fan in the 70s was actually an embarrassment. It was like being a
was.
fan of the Jets,
Yeah.
or being a fan of the Jaguar. Well, not the Jaguars are not playing well, but
Now.
like the Carolina Panthers,
Yeah.
or
Which
the
they
New
had
York Giants.
toward the end.
Yeah, they got better, but they didn't make
Yeah.
the playoffs.
Or
So
let's say put it this way: the 1976 Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
yeah, although
Or
they managed to turn their thing,
they don't. Yeah,
their
that's it.
franchise around too, and even New England. I mean, I was thinking about that. When I was growing up, New England was the biggest joke. I mean,
Yeah.
do you remember when they went up against Chicago in that Super Bowl and just got
Oh yeah.
blasted to smithereens? You
Uh,
know,
they they yeah. They I was gonna say they were the Boston Patriots, but they had changed to New England
right?
prior to that. Steve Grogan was the quarterback, and
Right.
that was where. But to me, that was the easiest bet. And that was the one time I was in Vegas to watch the Super Bowl, and I bet that was a lot of money for me back then. I bet $500 on Chicago, and I asked the guy at the ticket counter. I said, "What's the biggest bet you've seen? This week?" And he goes, "Well, the guy just before you, but $50,000 on New England." And I go, "Oh." I go, "Can he get his money back? He's going to get smoked."
Wow, $50,000 in
Oh,
'80s money. That's more like about $200,000 now.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
man, I'm sure he wishes he had that money back now. He should have taken that 50,000 and put it in Apple. You
Yeah,
know, where
yeah,
he
that's right.
where he'd be now.
Did I ever tell you my Apple story? Um, I was in college in 1979, 78, 79, taking a computer class, which back then it was Fortran and COBOL, and it was not a fun class. And I remember this our professor saying, "Yeah, a few couple of years ago, a couple of guys in a garage built a computer, and it's named after like a fruit, like a peach or an apple or something like that. And they're trying to make a go of going against IBM." And I remember saying out loud, "It'll never work. You can't go against IBM."
That's what a
Oh,
lot of people.
how I got humbled.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. It's
All right.
true.
Hey,
But
let's talk a little NBA. You like the NBA.
yes. Oh,
Um,
kind of.
kind of. So, let's see. We've got. Weren't they talking
Well, we
about?
got Jimmy Butler. Well, I was
Yeah.
watching him, on TV, and I was watching the satellite feed of it instead of the regular commercial feed because I was out of town. So I was and you know, when Jimmy Butler went down with his ACL tear,
Yeah.
I got to hear what was going on in the arena instead of the commercial, and all it was Jimmy Butler saying "OF, OF, OF," and just shouting at the top of his lungs. So I could hear like all of that. I was like, he's gone for the season, and it might be a career-ending injury for him. And it's just a terrible way for the Warriors to have to, you know, it was right after the 49ers got smoked by Seattle. The night after, I was like, oh, at least it's Warriors season. And then it's like, oh no, you know, I don't know what it is about Bay Area athletes getting just devastating injuries. But this year, the last like 12 months, have been just and even for the Giants when they lost Chung Ho Lee when he ran up against the fence and destroyed his shoulder. You know, it's just been one thing after another. I mean, all these like catastrophic injuries. Some people have.
I think they do it just to upset you.
Or well, some people are saying that the Niners practice too close to a electric facility, like a place that generates these intense electrical waves, and that's weakening the bodies of the 49ers, making them susceptible. But I mean, George Kittle, you know, he wasn't playing in San Francisco when he got the ACL tear. You know,
no. I think that if what you just heard is true, it's the idea that if you practice and you do that, then you're it doesn't matter that you didn't get hurt at your own home field.
A 300-pound person falls on your ankle, as Fred Warner. It doesn't matter where you practice. That's going to destroy your ankle. You know, you fall on your knee wrong. You know, it doesn't matter where you practice at. You fell on your knee wrong and you're out. You know, and same with Jimmy Butler. You know, it just. But for his age and for what the Warriors need for him to be, I think it's the end of the line for him.
Is he? He's 37, I think.
Yeah, he is, and he's going to be out all of next year till mid-season. So it means he's going to miss all of training camp and maybe not be in decent shape to play at all till like after next year. It's the same with George Kittle. Those injuries happening at an awkward time makes getting into the next season almost impossible, and you have to almost wait 2 seasons before you're back. Again.
Psychologically, when you come back, don't you get kind of, you know, the
of course you look at the unfortunate situation of Klay Thompson, you know, when he was he had that season-long injury that he was working at. He was just days from coming back, and he tore a quad right before that, you know, just days before, and then had to sit out another season.
Jimmy Garoppolo had, you know, an injury, and he came back, and it's like he knew he just kept favoring that one.
Yeah, he was never good after his he couldn't run at all, and he wasn't effective as a running, scrambling quarterback. Once that it was against, I think, Washington, he ran out of bounds and he tore his knee up.
Yeah.
And that's
he's back up to somebody. I think I remember seeing the number.
I don't think he's in the league anymore. I think he was in the Raiders. He was in the Raiders organization. They kicked him to the curb, and he's been.
I thought for some reason I saw it recently. I'll have to look it up. Okay, just for fun, I got a fun joke of the week. You ready? Here we go. Joe's wife bought a new line of expensive cosmetics, guaranteed to make her look years younger. After a lengthy sitting before the mirror applying the miracle products, she asked, "Darling, honestly, what age would you say I am?" Looking over her carefully, Joe replied, "Well, judging from your skin, 20. Your hair, 18. And your figure, 25. "Oh, you flatter me," she gushed. He said, hey, wait a minute. He interrupted. I haven't added them up yet.
I was going to say, was that in dog years?
Yeah, dog years. No. Got to add up all those years. Let's see here. We got about a minute and a half before we have to cut the break.
Okay. Yeah. No, I wanted to talk more about the NBA. So this year the All-Star game is coming up, and they're going to go with USA versus the world this time around, which is something everyone has been telling, Silver to do for like, the entire time he's been commissioner,
Oh,
and he's never listened. That's one positive thing. The negative thing is there's so many injuries going on right now. It's going to be interesting to see who competes for what, because
yeah, but the thing is, if let's forget the injuries, like because maybe next year there won't be as many injuries. I think it's kind of a neat idea because some of the players who are on your team are going to be playing against you, which is fine. I mean, as long as it's all kind of in fun.
and it
But
gives
as long,
America rooting interest. It gives
yeah,
America, a
but
reason to
but they,
tune
and,
in to see can American players stand up to what the rest of the world has to offer. I'm telling you, the rest of the world has a heck of a team to
oh
put
yeah,
together, and I'm
I mean
not
just
sure America
over,
does.
yeah.
What? I'm sorry.
Look at Jokic, you know. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
just
mean Rudy Gobert. They have a lot of big guys. I mean, even like someone like for
spit it out. You got. I know you
the
got it.
Clippers. The Clippers. I'm trying to remember the Clippers center. That guy's pretty good too, and he's also from Europe. And then
Yeah.
of course you could bring in Wembanyama,
Oh yeah.
and Shea Gilgeous is not from the United States. He's from Canada. You
Yeah.
know.
That's almost like it. Okay, let's get to our last break here. You ready? Here we go. What guitarist notably performed on the Michael Jackson song "Beat It"? Do
I
you
do
know this
know
one?
this.
You do
Yes.
know this one. See, I was wondering.
Yes.
I mean, like, for if you know it, it's easy. If you don't, you go, "Oh,
No.
really? That's kind
And
of
he's
surprising."
no longer with us, unfortunately.
He's no longer with us. Yes, unfortunately. So I think you do know the answer to that. All right, audience, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We have some fun thoughts for the day. That's Russell's favorite part of the show,
Somehow
right?
I make it through.
How you make it through. All right, audience, don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. Any last words before I get into my thoughts for the
Well,
day?
yeah, I'm answering the trivia question,
Oh yes,
which
I'm
is the
sorry.
man who brought
Guitarist.
us
Oh, let me read the
one of the
question.
greatest guitar jams ever,
Yes, what
Eruption.
guitar performed on the Michael Jackson song "Beat It"?
And he performed one of the greatest solos ever, which is an intro to "You Really Got Me," which is
Yeah,
"Eruption," and that
that's
is
right.
Edward Van Halen.
That is correct, and that is a phenomenal solo on Eruption. Yes, I know exactly which one you're talking about.
I'm a huge Van Halen fan.
Me too.
One of my greatest regrets is that I never got to see them perform live.
Well, there
I
there is a tribute band that's
I
not.
know it's not the same thing though. I want to see. I wish I had gone to see. They did the Unchained album at over in Oakland Coliseum, and my brother went, and I just
Oh,
somehow just had better things to do or something else going on, and I said, no, I don't want to go. And years later, I really regret it.
really regret it. Okay, all right. Here's our thoughts for the day. Friendship is like money, easier made than kept.
Okay,
Right?
that I agree with that. Okay.
Okay. And don't carry your excuse me, don't carry your mistakes around with you. Instead, place them under your feet and use them as stepping stones to rise above them. That's pretty good.
All right.
All right.
That's
See,
not corny.
it's not corny. Yeah, we kind of decided this week we're going to have the more serious, pondering thoughts for the day.
Okay,
That's
that might be better. That
might be
might be better.
better.
I can't groan over those ones.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I know. We always hear for the audience who isn't that familiar with our show. Of course, everyone is because they tune in every week. Sometimes you'll hear a
Oh
and
yeah,
that's okay.
yes.
All right, audience, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We'll be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Adios.
So long.